We're
Not
live.
yet. Wait. Oh, there we go. We are live. Welcome back. This is another episode of Lyrical One's podcast. I am your gracious, humble, thankful, appreciative, patient, very patient host, Sineo. And I'm joined with June. June, Bella, how are you doing on this fine Thursday? This is not our usual schedule. How are you doing on this Thursday evening post we in the process of a post presidential election. How are you?
Goodness, Sin, thank you so much for asking. Right now, I'm steeped into my neck with suspense for this election because I want to wake up in an America where I know the direction is going to go. And I hope it's in a direction towards progression. When we wake up tomorrow, what kind of country will we be in? I mean, before we could even consider such a conclusion, we're right in the middle of it. I mean, why is it taking so long for this election to take place and to come to a close? That's where I'm at tonight. But how are you?
Right on, June. Thank you. I mean, I feel you. And, just to kind of highlight, because that is a sentiment that a lot of people are sharing right now, just to remind people, like, this is the first time that mail in ballots have been such a huge proponent, especially due to COVID. People, we got to trust the process right now. It ain't perfect at all. It is a lot of flaws and a lot of things being exposed in terms of what we can identify that just doesn't work for us. So I'm looking at it from the perspective of maintaining my patience, exercising my patience, working on my patience. That's kind of where we are, right? Time is of the essence. And, as much as we want to get to the exit, like we want to get to that point where we know, we're aware, we're sure, we also have to take into account that there's a process that has to take place and everyone should be accounted for. Whether
I
you voted for Joe Beasy, where you voted for Don Treasy, or you voted for K Weezy Yeezy West. Okay, I'm sorry.
I
I
know
had to
we
do it.
said I know I said Kanye 2020 the last time though. You know what I'm
I
saying?
mean, everybody, you know what I'm saying? Like, I ain't trying. This isn't an endorsement. This isn't a plug, but I did watch the Kanye West Joe Rogan interview. It was 3 hours, and I will say, I don't. This will go down for history. I felt like I had a lot in common with what he had to say, even though I also had a lot that I disagreed with.
Like what?
So, in terms of how he approached certain things, right? They were talking about, well, when it comes to foreign affairs, especially when it comes to like military, when it comes to making a military move or commitment to a military strategy, how will you go about it? And he took a moment of pause and he prayed and he said, I needed to pray on it. And it was revealing because to me, right, again, I'm by no means a person that follows a specific faith, but I can respect a person who does. I can respect a person and honor that and cherish and value that that's what they hold to true to their heart. And he said in a moment, he was like, you asked me a question that has a lot of gravity, right? I'm paraphrasing in the most sin way possible, but
Please do.
he's saying that, thank you. He's saying that, in this capacity, you asking me this question, I need to take my time to give you an answer that's thought out. And what he responded with is, I would need to meet with the experts and the advisors who would be in my council that have the experience, have the expertise to give me the most information to make the best decision. Now, usually people are ready with the answer no matter what the question is. They want to just be right, or they just want to say the thing to have it out the way. And what I appreciated about it was, as egotistical as this man could be, he was admitting that he had no real understanding or like no experience at all, no expertise, nothing that would ground him in saying an answer that would make sense or seem justifiable. He removed himself by saying, I would need to consult with my advisors. I would need to consult with my team. I would need to consult with the people who have been in this position and make the best decision based off of the information, not just going off of their word, right? Because at the end of the day, like, we all can learn as we go, but who are our teachers as we journey through this process? And I was like, I can appreciate that answer. I can appreciate that response, right? Now, some of the things that kind of were like, because I understand how his mind thinks is he can't give everything because there's so much going on and he's trying to get it out and convey it. So he cuts himself off in every interval of his thought process, right? You ask a question, he has 20 different things going on at the same time that all intersect with that one question. And the thing is, for most people, that's on one end is kind of like um you almost appear as though you don't have the ability to communicate properly, which is a way of giving people a sense of fear and insecurity, because it's like, I don't feel comforted with what you're saying. I feel fearful because you're not coming across as though you know what you're saying. Now, me, I was able to, as what I've learned over time, I'm more than happy and capable of talking to anyone and kind of discerning and really breaking down what's being said to me. I'm not a person where things kind of go over my head. I'm able to like see the surface and then all the prehistoric levels of kind of old matter that decompose as you talk. So with that, I was able to pick up what he was saying. But again, in this moment, it was like he was getting at certain threads where I was like, as much as I appreciate you wanting to put your name out there or put your neck out there, I think that there is some work that needs to be done around truly understanding certain parts of society. And I'm not saying I'm no better, but I do have a different experience than him. Like, yeah, I'm working towards getting money, but not having had money and working with people in the community who haven't had money, I have a different perspective around systems, people, information, knowledge, merit. And in his world, to some degree, he values that because he said, who are you to tell me when you haven't done? And I'm like, well, yeah, who are you to tell me how to run my community when you haven't run a community? When you haven't been part of a team to help run a community or heal a community or repair a community. And I don't think you have people within your circle based off of the language you're using and the things that you're saying that give me comfort to let me know that you're talking to people who are coming from that restorative and healing place. Because even though you're rooted in a lot of positive things, it's easy to get lost and off track due to certain people being in your circle who, yeah, they might have money or they may have information or knowledge or expertise in certain things. But as I've come to learn quickly, my BS rater is on 100 and not everybody got that. And so
I got that.
I mean, trust me, I see him from a mile away. People always like, Oos was on here last week talking about when you first meet Sin, he always gonna be like, and he ain't lying. He peeped it. We ain't even had a conversation about it, but he knew what was up when it came to me and how I was. And that speaks to him being a real one who I value, I love, and I appreciate. But he peeped game from the jump because, yes, I am like that with everyone. I'm not quick to give open arms and be all, I'm gonna be polite. I'm gonna be nice, but I'm not gonna enable. I'm not gonna sit there and tolerate. I'm not gonna just take in, because at the end of the day, I'm a responsible person to you and my community. So if I see harm coming or I see energy that's harmful, I got to protect myself first, because I still got to be present for my community and I got to be present for my people and my family, right? Like, my community consists of my family, my friends, and the people who I work with and I'm associated to. And if you're going to infringe on that in my well-being and my health, well, I got to make sure I have safeguards to process who are you first, right? I need to see you as you are and you exist without any knowledge of who I am. Because sometimes what happens when people know who you are, they try to cater to who you are rather than getting to know you, right? I know you based off of what someone tells me about you. Now I have in my mind an expectation. So when I meet you, I may try to cater to that. I may try to pander to that. Because again, right, we're all trying to develop relationships and some people think that's the way. Not all the time. And not with me. So going back to the
They're real, I mean, like, you're on the real, there's no question about it. Look, I just want to say about Kanye, I just wish, look, he is a person of influence, and he himself has people who influence him. And I feel that he may have been influenced by our current, who knows to be, if reelected, president. And I feel as if there's something that everyone can learn. And Kanye's position of humility is something that I personally, I can feel I can take away from his listeners. and the president who's in office today. So I feel, and we'll see. Now I feel as if, even though, to wrap up about that, uh, it's a good thing that we have advisors. It's a good thing that we have a cabinet. It's a good thing that we have a balance of powers in Senate, and there's a check of powers. I'm appreciative that he acknowledges where his growth needs to be, and I just want to say that people look up to him for his art, and that doesn't mean that he's incapable of leading people um, towards socio-political reform. Now, would I expect more of Kanye as an artist in the White House? I most certainly would. However, would that now my heart cries out and says, would that stretch him too thin? My heart pounds for the wellness of people. Yes, I'm one for the community as well. My heart is all for making sure I'm eating good, everybody's eating good before, yeah, right? And then, so not me first, but would that be good for his psyche? Right? It's a lot of stress, and I'm not saying that and I can only, I can't relate. Who am I? I almost wouldn't. Would I want to be president of the United States, knowing it's the most stressful job in the world? I'm just right. I mean, I'm not saying it's impossible or anything, but needless to say, I'm going back to influences and being influenced. I'm influenced and encouraged to run, possibly consider running for a local office, or, and I couldn't imagine that I'm the only one. So I'm just here to support those who are going after their dreams, who have the courage to do so, because I find myself many times wanting to take the next step when it comes to advancing in my own goals, but actually getting down and doing it. And it takes guts, it takes practice, and it takes support. So to wrap up my rant on Kanye, I support I support Kanye.
Yeah,
Right?
no, I mean, I feel you. The thing that I wanted to say was the other half of the equation that you reminded me was,
Thank you.
he had said, like, it was something he did on social media. It was like Twitter or something. He had a little video and he was saying something, but before he said it, he was like referencing his sunglasses and like the brand of them, right? He was doing this stunt, like he was stunting, right? And it's like, for those that don't know what stunting is, that means when you need to show off, right, in some capacity. Sometimes it may be
But
what
okay.
might be materialism, right? Might be your fashion, might be what the brand is or how much you pay for it. And it was like he did that. And I'm like, I have a way of feeling when it comes to you being responsible to the people and you're trying to address classism. And here you are perpetuating the divide in the have and have not, right? It's
Insensitive.
like, how can I have faith in you being the leader of the free world when you married to someone who could go and rent an island in the midst of a pandemic and y'all can live within a bubble away from the normal people who can't do such things, right? Where it's like, people are still dying, people are like, the numbers are going back up. And in this period of time that we're in, you thought it would be the best representation, the most responsible thing to say, hey, look at me and my family of stunting. We are going to stunt on the highest level, right? We're going to be on the highest regard of stunting right now, and we're going to throw a party. And we're not going to just throw one; we're going to throw multiple parties, because that's what's transpired, right? And so it's like, to me, when we talk about classism, we talk about him trying to approach that and really break down what money is. Like, I appreciate the rhetoric of what you're saying, but when I see the practice,
It's questionable.
I mean, beyond questionable, it don't line up, right? Don't tell me you're great at this, or this is what you aim to do, and when it comes time to show up for it, this is what we see, right? Because it's like, Kanye gonna be a reoccurring theme, because that's just, we are rappers and he's involved in certain things that we have passions about, right? And he's now put him his like first off, we gotta give a round of applause to a man who put his name on the ballot. Like I look at the ballot and I'm like, his name is printed on the ballot. Like
I
he
know.
said it and he made it happen. All right. Regardless if you like it or not, like, hold on. He a black billionaire who has been able to afford a certain like level of status in the world to get to that point. And he didn't do it the way y'all wanted him to do it. So first off, just on a pure rebellious, I gotta rock with you. I gotta rock with you because you did it. Like you said you was gonna do it. You did it. But as a man to another man who, okay, I'm getting ready to start a family. Yeah, I'm black and I'm brown, which that's a whole nother segment that he doesn't even understand, right? When you endorse some but I'm saying like in this capacity, when you endorse Don Treasy and Don Treasy sitting here creating an environment where it's hostile and racism is running rampant. And, like I said, my father went to DMV and I've never experienced this until this administration where he was being questioned and harassed about his citizenship when he had proof of his citizenship and him being a citizen of the United States. Now, my father, yes, at one point was an illegal immigrant, but he went through the process and figured out how to get his citizenship, which is very difficult, right? And to know that he's now in a place where it's like he's trying to do what he can to provide for his family, but he's being challenged by an authority figure because they don't want to validate the paperwork that's in front of them. And now we have to show up and fight on his behalf. That to me, you, Kanye, are endorsing this behavior. You're enabling it. You're making it cool because you are the tastemaker. People look to you when it comes to the clothes, when it comes to the ways of thinking. Yes, some people are going to be influenced because yes, people did vote for you, right? And when I hear, because this was a measure, and I need to follow up to see if it was true, but there was something where they were gonna, if you were convicted of a certain felony, you could lose your citizenship and then be sent back to wherever country you came from, right? You could be pretty much kicked out. And I'm like, wait, you could be denaturalized. You could lose your citizenship just based off of a crime. And I'm like, wait, part of being a citizen is having to go through that process of, kind of checks and balances and consequences. But now we're changing that and we're like saying, and this is a part of Don Treasy's administration. This is something that they're trying to initiate. And I'm like, I get it to some degree. This is how you perceive you didn't value your citizenship, so we're gonna get rid of you. But at the same time, how much is this predatory? Because it's say that again, June.
I didn't mean to cut you off. I mean, the whole system's rigged, I mean, it's disproportionately, so I mean, how much percentage do African Americans make just of the country? And then look at prisons. And, I'm sorry, I hate to go on a tangent, but I was thinking like prison food. Can we talk about prison food? Like, it's terrible. Like, why are they feeding human beings that, and can I get on my Kim Kardashian West and get on some like, some prolific, changes need to be made. Can I just state that for one? Some reform needs to happen, and not just on the prison system, but the education system. Foster care needs to be reformed. I mean, my heart is breaking. I just don't understand why this is such an issue, and it shouldn't be. Along with immigration, that needs to be reformed. So I'm hopeful for all the changes that I think should take place. But I mean, I just want to rally up all the listeners and say, what can we do to make a positive change?
Definitely. No, and I agree wholeheartedly. It's just one of those things where we, more importantly, as this process transpires, takes on, and concludes, we have to continue to question. We can't stop fighting. Like we can't stop and let up and say, oh, even if it turns out okay, we got Joe Biden in office, so what? Like he a part of the whole the game. Like yeah. Am I somewhat alleviated that he's in there or he's in the race? Yeah, of course I'm alleviated, but that don't change how he got here. That don't change the system, the wave he rode in on. Like, let's be clear, there's still changes that need to happen and take place, right? So to me, knowing that those changes need to come, I'm always going to be on the side of pushing for that change and fighting for that change for the people, even if they don't know it themselves, even if they're not aware of it, right? I've had a certain level of experience and I've seen how things have transpired, and I'm hoping to learn more because I don't know enough. But In this situation, right, it's not about, oh, we got him in office, right? So we stop voting for all the minor measures, right? Every measure matters, right? Everything has
Writing. What country was it that voted to rewrite their constitution? It was either Chile or Venezuela.
exactly. I
And
mean,
I think, why can't we do that here if we also needed to? Because the foundations of the, I mean, I'm not a fan of if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Because if it depends on who you ask, they can apply that to the Constitution. I think that there's always room for improvement. So I'm not opposed to some kind of revision, that or scrap the whole thing, start all over again. It's 2020. I mean, everybody's starting all over from scratch in every way anyway. So
I mean, you're not wrong. Like, we need to thoroughly criticize and be skeptical and revisit so much of what it is we're founded on.
and what we're fighting
Like,
for.
what we going where we going what untapped land is there left for us to leave? Because remember, that's how this started, right? Somebody decided we gonna leave, and even though y'all living here, we gonna take it over. And now that we live here, we gonna say this is what it is, right? We gonna base it off of what we feel and based off of what we learned. And well, now here we are again, right? What we gonna do? We no longer like it. We, representation, taxation without representation, right? So I guess we just gonna hop on Mayflower Part 2 and just be like, okay, what land can we take over from these people? We can't do that. We have to now stay and say, okay, we need to revisit, right? Just to put it out there, it was Chile that decided we're gonna rewrite our constitution, but we deserve the right to have that conversation. We deserve the right to start the process. You can't tell me that it's just because it worked for you, right? It ain't broke, don't fix it. No, it's broke for me. It's broken for me, right? And until it works, well, it's broken. We're working in a broken system. This system is fundamentally broken, right? How can you sit up here and have a leader of the free world have all his boys get arrested and he gonna say, oh yeah, we're gonna talk about some of the bad immigrants, but we ain't gonna talk about some of the citizens who are already here, who now almost all of them have been in some capacity had contact with the justice system since being a part of his administration, since him being in power. Come on, what game we really playing?
I mean, we're not going to talk. Are we just going to look over the corruption? Are we just going to look over the lawsuits? And I mean, like, well, on the topic of lawsuits, I mean, I just know that he just happens to be like suing states for like their ballots and the way that they're not. I'm sure, does he even, who knows how they're even being counted? But I mean, like, he's calling off the election. I'm like, no, we count the votes. We're having an election. Like, that's how it works. We count the votes, and then if you don't win, then you have to leave quietly, which I believe he agreed that he wasn't. So I mean,
there's a lot to explore with that, and it's a situation where, as it develops, as it's ongoing, we will see how history is made through his behavior and his actions. But I just want to say, we have to engage and make sure that we hold those people accountable at all times, because again, he's not the problem, right? He's the manifestation of all the problems. He's just the embodiment of everything that's been going on for all of these years since we've been here on this planet, right? Especially when it comes to regards to this country we live in, the United States. I love it here, but damn it if I don't have my challenges, gripes, and my moments of hatred and rage, right? I mean, yeah, I can love something and hate it at the same time. I'm a complex being. Some people like to be so one track minded and act like it's not possible, but trust me, we all have our moments. And in this situation and where we are, it's just something that I want people to really be mindful, stay engaged, stay informed, and be responsible with your participation in this situation. Realize the situation isn't over.
Be responsible and not reckless. I just feel as if we should be moving. Every move we make should be with wisdom.
And if it's not with wisdom, right, it has to be with a certain level of thought, right? Right, a certain level of thought. I'm not saying you got to be wise, right? Because that requires some experience, and we might not always have the ability to have experience under our belt, but at least try and consult At least ask, talk, like speak up, ask questions, get to know, right? We live in the information age. I'm not saying all information is real, but I am saying there's ways to find people who can validate for you whether or not information is valid, right? Like there's a way, there's a process, there is a method. You can talk to somebody if you choose to go out of your way and actually think about it in a polite way, right? In a respectful way. But if you're just going to sit there and be lost in your vacuum chamber with your other people who all believe and think and feel the same thing as you do, it ain't even to dictate. It's just saying from a person who's been harmed and has caused harm, like you realize, like I'm not speaking as like I'm a saint. No, by all means, my name is Sin. I'm definitely the sinner in this situation. And what I'm saying is I've done wrong, I've made wrong, and I've learned from those situations. And I realize not everyone has access to that experience and the education that I have. And before people say, well, how do you know? Because I work in the community and I come across and I continue to come across people and individuals where what I'm saying is the first time they're hearing it. Right. So I'm not trying to dictate how to do something. I'm just saying if you're thirsty, drink some water. Might be better for you than just going for the soda. Right. I'm just saying in this situation where we're living in, I've had harm done to me. I've done harm to others. And I don't wish for that to happen and be a reoccurring cycle. And what I found to stop the cycle from happening and taking place is we have to question everything. We have to ask questions. We have to be comfortable with not knowing and being comfortable with being just unaware. I think that's core to where we are right now. I've just seen so much hatred, so much dialogue and rhetoric where it's been about divide. And if we're supposed to hold up to the idea of a United States, that means you have to become united. How do you do that? Clarification and communication, right? To reduce any form of confusion, because that can create chaos. Right. So to me, I'm going to say, yes, ask questions. Yes, talk. Yes, speak on it. Right. Because it matters to me, because my community matters to me. All these C's, y'all getting chaos, confusion, community, communication, all that clarity. Like, let's be clear. June, what you going to say?
What? I'm
I
sorry.
thought you was going to say something. My bad.
I did say something. But okay, anyway.
But no, I was just gonna say, like, when it comes to this time, just people be careful and be thoughtful. And I do want to say before we kind of move on into the evening's topics, just some announcements, just to keep order in the house, get some announcements out of the way. This is a reminder that Lyrical Assembly Reads for Resistance Book Club is every Saturday at 9 a.m. Okay, remember, Lyrical Assembly Reads for Resistance every Saturday, 9 a.m. And a new book has been started right now to be read is Decolonizing Evangelism. All right, I'm having trouble because I ain't drink no water and I got to go tea. June, take it away.
Just a reminder, we are starting to read a new book called Decolonizing Evangelism by Dr. Randy Woodley, an Indigenous leader and wisdom keeper. Email Lacey at lyricalopposition.org to join. Also, make sure to text 514-903-7699 to join our online Discord community. That's 415 the Peninsula 903-7699. And our Lyrical Assembly broadcast is available on all platforms every week on Sunday at 10. If you're interested, that's 10 a.m. If you're interested in faith, arts, or activism, make sure to check out this broadcast. Thank you.
Yeah, so again, right, you can join the Discord community and get in contact and text 415-903-7699. That is the Lyrical Assembly. Get involved, get informed, get them, be a part of some, right? It's a community, as I say. Community is important. Maybe not to everyone, but to some, right? If you want to belong, you gotta, get involved.
Lyrical ones to Lyrical Assembly, to Lyrical Academy, to Lyrical Opposition.
Yeah, I don't know what episode this is, keep it real. I think this is episode 23, because I think last episode was episode 22. So this is episode 23, right? We doing everything in a new order, new way, new form. At least for the day, because some things is out of whack. Mercury in retrograde like every day, so
I feel a
it's finally, I'll admit it today. It's gotten to me. It's finally like I'm okay. Mercury, whatever that means. The communication's all over the place, right? Communication, as they would say, communication. So to me, I'm just like, I got to be very mindful of communication for communication's sake, and not got my signals crossed. But with that, again, we are in a very unique time. The holidays are upon us. Thanksgiving.
We're here. We've arrived.
And this is a new era, a new world we living in, right? The number rates for people being infected and impacted by COVID is going back up. Hold your toilet paper close. It's getting back to those times. And at the same time, it's the holiday season where Thanksgiving, Christmas, June. Do you got any plans for Thanksgiving?
I was just thinking about that because are we ordered to social distance for these holidays? Do we have to keep it to 6? Because if not, I'm gonna go see my family. Okay, and I have to proceed with caution because yes, I have a multi-generational family, and I mean, for me, that might be visiting my mom, that might be visiting my pappy in the Bay Area. So that's where I'm probably going to be. But shout out to Pappy Man. Okay, great. Rick Main stand up. Okay, great. But those are my plans. And okay, once we kick off Thanksgiving though, because then we have a number of holidays in December, and then we have New Year's, which I'm just so curious how New Year's is going to go for me, because that's like always been like monumental, and just feeling like, oh, you're refreshed, you're renewed, and for me, it was in Las Vegas, like out on the strip with a whole bunch of people counting down with the fireworks. That's not going to happen. So it's like we have to create new ways to feel in sync with everybody, even though we cannot be in the presence of everybody, So, I mean, if there's a way that I can be in the present, like in the presence of my loved ones, that's what I'm going to do. However, if it comes down to it, I mean, I'm gonna make a way.
I feel you. I mean, it's tricky because, I don't know how many people would even think about it, but I'm like, everybody go to your patios, your windows, your backyards, and share those moments, like as a community, as a world, as wherever you are, where your little enclave is. Because Thanksgiving this year, I'm like, man, I might just go in the backyard of my parents' house and just be there in the backyard, just be like, we chilling, like in the cold, it's gonna be freezing. Oh well, like we gonna thug it out and suffer together. But I think that you said what? Say it again.
That's all that matters.
You said it. It's all that matters. And I think that I'm actually interested in how Black Friday gonna look.
Are we still calling it Black Friday?
All right, the worst Friday of the year. I wonder how the worst Friday of the year gonna look.
Can we talk stocks? I mean, right? Black Friday. I don't know, Sin. A lot of stores are closing, and a lot of stores aren't opening up again. And a lot of those stores are small businesses, which is where I like to shop. I like to keep it local. I like to do the farmers markets. I like to support my neighbors. I like to support my uncles, my friends' parents. Like out there, and it's just it's a look of despair that I can't help to shake, because I'm no business owner, at least not yet, but it's even in the face of adversity, there's always you can always have optimism for opportunity. But even if one were to have that optimism, it's quite grim, and it's so I don't know what the answer is. I don't know. I mean, Black Friday. I mean, what are we? Everything's already been on sale at JCPenney's. I mean, come on. So I mean, like, how is it gonna come up? Let's talk Amazon. How is Amazon gonna come up? Jeff Bezos, he's a trillionaire. You know, I
I
mean,
know he's about to be a gazillionaire.
how do you? What's after trillion? I honestly, I don't know. Million, billion,
Quadrillion?
quadrillion, and after that,
A Google?
oh yeah, that's in there. I didn't realize that was a real thing. I was like 7th grade. I was like, what?
I
Anyhow,
know how we all learned that in 7th grade though, because I learned that in 7th grade too. Like Google's a number? What?
they spell it wrong. Right. So actually, shout out to 7th grade though, because that's where I learned how to code. So my MySpace was lit. You know what I'm
Oh
saying?
my God. Had that. What is that? What is it? HTML popping?
With the okay, good at flashing and everything.
Everything's going in between. I
That's
feel it. I mean, I was fortunate enough to be in computer programming as well. Q Basic was what we were taught in middle school back in the very, very long ago at a different period of time. But Q Basic, HTML, we was doing actually we're doing our own web pages on the school server. Like it was a different time. Like having the same ugly pattern, like JPEG kind of rocky looking background. Like everything was this textured rocky background. Every website had this textured rocky background. And then it would have the dividers where it would be like just this transparent overlay that was somewhat white with like, it was always felt like these were the colors of your fonts: black, royal blue, hard red, and yellow. Like that was it. Like it was like, this is how we're going to run our web pages. Like, remind you, we don't, no thing is Wi-Fi, no such thing, right? You had 5.6K dial-up modem, and at school you had T3. That was it. Like we talking about a different era altogether, right? We were working on Windows, wasn't even 95. It was like Windows something else, like super old computers. And we like, I remember my computer programming teacher was making it work because it was like these were old computers and he was teaching us like straight game. And I was like, and how to make our own games. Like really Q Basic was a coding language that we were learning how to input, output all these different commands and figure out how to make a game. And some people made text adventures. And this one whiz kid, I never forget, he barely spoke English, but he knew algebra like a mug. And he was able to have like a face on the screen that could move around and then make explosion graphics from like just basic like pixel art. And I was like, he was like, I told you all it was all about math. I'm like, man, it's whatever. I'm just gonna watch this dude. Yeah. So it's real out here. It was San Francisco, if you know, if you got access, if you got lucky. I mean, computer programming, especially in middle school, is so good just to have experience and be familiar with to some degree. Like super dope. But yeah, geeks in the world, you feel me?
Well, it's a huge industry that continues to grow.
Oh, definitely. And I mean, when you were saying like what is the stock gonna look like for the horrible Friday, I had to look and see like what because I ain't been looking. Like I've only been paying attention when it's bad. So for those that you don't, this is not advice. I repeat, this is not advice. This is just me playing around and experimenting in my experience. Whenever I see everything red, when that means it's red, that means the stock prices have went down. If I see them plummeting, I wait until they start to slow up, and then I start buying. I feel like it's on sale. That's how I look at it. It's on sale. You get half off, or you get 5%, 10%, 15% off. And again, I'm not buying anything other than just random stock. I'm like, what industry is it in? Is this something that I would use or I could see people using? And what's the news associated with it? And then I'm like, you know what? Let's get some. Now it's up. And I'm like, what? I'm like, oh, it's on we going up? Like, we going up. And I'm like, okay, well, going into the holiday season, I do have some like commercial goods in there because I'm like, me right now, like, I'm gonna keep it 1,000 with y'all. Understand, I am no longer participating. Okay, I take that back. I am trying my best. You see how I switched it? I am trying my best not to participate in consumerism. I am doing my best to start to rethink and re-practice how I use money in my association with money, right? Because being broke is not fun. And multi-generational wealth come. Say that again. Say that. Come on, June. Say that again.
Look, it conditions you, okay? It conditions you for like just survival mode. And like the things that you first off, being in survival mode, you may eliminate. I'm speaking from experience. Just may I speak from a little bit of experience, just a little bit what I know. It's just that um your mindset changes. So you may have things that you may think that are essential, and they're not essential at all. And you may think this I need, and then there are things that you need for your survival. So when you're in survival mode, it's like as long as you have those things conducive to your well-being or not, okay, um, you're good. But the things that will keep you, consistently on the up and up, those get pushed to the side. And so I was just, oh my gosh, I was just thinking about it. It's a complete mind fuck. Okay. And it's something that's not easily digestible. It's something that needs to be picked apart. We're talking about a poverty mindset, growing up below your means, and not even realizing what your needs are. And then once your needs are met, um, let's tie it into financial literacy, like take it into deeper, like what do we then spend on? What do we then save? What is essential? How much toilet paper do we really need? For a family of five. So or I mean, I don't have a family of five, but I mean, I was just saying, for example, like, oh goodness, when I get worked up, sometimes I want to say so many things, and then I just want to. I don't want to scrap it all, but goodness, I got lost. Okay, but it's about conditioning, and it's about um not surviving but thriving. And how do we break that threshold? And it I mean, just to wrap it up, I do believe it has to do with moving up, so in socioeconomically, like to different, like we're talking about classism, like I feel as if moving up, because uh, man, I got a lot of soapboxes. This is what's going on, because I mean, like, honestly, if you think about the poverty rate, like, if you my brother-in-law told me this the other day. He's like, if you and your spouse live in LA and you both make less than 100K, that's poverty line. And I'm thinking, let's talk about the housing. I know we were just on a really good topic, and we were just talking about, okay, but like, can we talk about housing? Because honestly, I'm thinking housing is supposed to be what, a third of your income? Okay. Minimum wage in Las Vegas right now, because I just moved to LA from Las Vegas, is less than $10. California, they're raising up to 15. But I still like, there are people out there that are like making like $9 an hour. And I'm like, okay, so let's just imagine that's bumped up to 10, and then do the math. 40 hours a week, $400 a week, that's 1,600 a month. So, right, like, say if you're, why am I doing all this math? A third of that, where can you find housing, right, that you can self-sustain yourself, and for that little, for a third of, for like 500-600, and that's just one person. Like, I just think that minimum wage needs to be reformed. I think that people should get paid more for what they do. I think that there shouldn't be trillionaires when there are trillions of people living in poverty, or billions of people living in poverty, because we have trillion people. Yeah, I don't know. Man, I just wish I knew more. So I'm just gonna end this here, and I'm saying I'm hungry for not misinformation. I feel like we live in a day of misinformation. I want the truth. I want the facts. I want the stats. I want the statistics. So we can make a better change, a more well-informed change, and not so much so I can go and point my finger into different communities and say, change this now. First, so I can take a hard look at myself and then go from there and see how I can help.
No, I feel it. I mean, it's crazy you say that, because in the work that I do a lot of talking to students about, like, talking about how do you start thinking about a budget? How do you start thinking about, money and need versus want, right? And one of the things that, I always realize is that they spend a hell of a lot of money on weed, and it's real. Like, it's real. These kids are coping. They're like, we're talking about inner city, we're talking about trauma, we're talking about self-medication, right? We're talking about how do you cope with what you're going through and how you're going to have to continue to go through it, right? Like, imagine how many students live in like 100 square feet. That's 10 by 10 feet. Like, they live in there, and they're really only other space to get enough space or open space is going to school, and now they don't have access to that, right? Like, think about, like, they sometimes are sharing a room with a bunch of other siblings, and there's a bunch of dynamics that have taken place and has their grip on their life and their routine and their practice, their habits. School, for better and for worse, becomes an outlet, right? It was baked into society, and then it becomes this thing of like a community within a community, and they are able to establish a new identity away from the household, right? They're able to learn not only just about school, but themselves in their kind of social, kind of the playground politics, if you will. And that happens for a good, we talking about from 6 to 18, right? We talking about a good 12 years, 13, 14 years, depending on when you start. And I'm now seeing, right, how these kind of intersections of life have all taken a fold. Because the things that the students always ask, how did you learn this? I said, because I had to learn it as I lived life, right? I had to just do. I had to be the person that had to spend half of their income on living, right? Or a little more than half at times, right? We talking about, like, you might not make it. You talking about the skin of your teeth. You talking about you sliding, like you hoping, you right, you running through hell with gasoline draws on, trying not to get caught on flames, right? That's what you doing. You like tiptoeing, like, oh, the fires is jumping. I see them coming. They trying to get me. I gotta dodge it. I gotta move it. And it's like magnets coming to you, and you just running. You just keep going. You hope you generate enough speed that it creates a windfall of momentum that fire just don't catch you. That's what you're doing when you're living on the edge, right? And I was trying to do that away from any type of system dependency, away from any type of government assistance, because for me, I didn't want to become dependent on anything. I would rather suffer. I would rather figure it out and be like, look, if I gotta live on the streets and get this gym membership just so I could go take a shower, that's what it's gonna be, right? That's as far as I was willing to go. And people were like, "What? You trip?" Nah, I am tripping because I
Far too many times.
let it be known what it is. Because at the end of the day, right, this is what I'm deciding for myself based off of what I had experience with and what I've seen around me, right? I'm not trying to judge. I'm just saying, when it comes to being independent, I value that more than anything. I value having my independence over everything. Like recently I've started developing, I couldn't even call it development. I've started applying for all of these different forms, like certifications and things, licenses you need to run a business, right? And so I'm learning, like, not only is it scared money don't make money, but it's also like you need to make sure you dot all your I's, cross all your T's, and you look at every box, because I'm doing that as a form of independence, right? I've said it before, I'm saying it again. The practice is in the practice of being perfection. Perfection isn't necessarily who you are, it's just you being in practice. That's it. Right? The practice is the perfection, not you being perfect. It's the practice and the continued consistent practice. The persistence in practice is how you reach perfection. Practice. So for me, in saying that, having my own business is me formulating independence away from a society and a system that causes me to need you, right? Whoever you are, employer, to tell me what my hour is worth, right? For the minimum wage to be set by the government, not be set by myself, right? What is the minimum wage I need? The minimum wage I need is $1,000 an hour. So I got to work on it, right? That's where I'm at. I'm not going to sit here and let y'all define it, because at the end of the day, if you define it, I'm gonna be in the poverty. I'm gonna be below the poverty threshold, right? I'm gonna be at the bottom of the barrel. Y'all ain't thinking about me. Oh, you want me to commute because the cost of my time has no value to you outside of work. Think about that. Oh, spend 3-4 hours in traffic, and that's going one way.
No,
So
that's
what? That's
minutes on the BART with no delays to the city. Okay,
if you're lucky.
take 2 hours more just to get to Fremont. Okay, then I got to Uber back to San Jose.
If you're lucky. If it all falls through the way you think or hope it would, right? How you planned it. Don't always go to plan, right? So
Bad delays.
mad delays on delays, right? So we living in a world, right, where there's so much dependency on certain systems that I'm now focusing on independence, and I'm focusing on how do I take all these different opportunities and figure out and learn and go through and ask questions so I can liberate myself from the dependency. And I'm saying all that to say, well, June, was you getting ready to say something?
I was just gonna say liberate yourself from all dependencies.
Yeah, I mean, because we live in
That's a major, that's it. We need to, when we spit bars, we need to say something like we could say bars, we could say major key. No, we need to have our own. Like
I mean, it's real. It's real that, like, as much as it is bars, it's like these are situations where I've seen how dependency on things has created harm in my community, in my family, and my friends. How it's created these levels of like entrapment, right? Where you feel like you can't leave certain things because you don't want to lose certain privileges. Like I've had those conversations with people where they'll navigate the system not to free themselves of it, but to stay within it. And I can't say it's right or wrong. If that's what works for them, cool. But I don't want that for me. I don't want that for my children. I don't want that for anyone. So I'm willing to sacrifice, work hard, and put in those late nights to get over on it because it's there. It's there. Like that's the part that drives me nuts. People be like, oh, how? Just ask questions to all the people like, you want to start a business? All right, go look up how to start a business in wherever you are, city, county, state, country. That's literally what it is. I went in the opposite direction. I went country, state, county, city, and now I'm like, oh God, what do I do? But I'm doing it, right? And I've done it before, but I didn't do it to this level where I'm doing it now, right? I did it as like a contractor, right? I did it as like, yeah, pay me because you ain't gonna give me no benefits. That's what it was, right? I'm gonna teach, you gonna pay me for it. Now I'm doing it as a business owner who's creating entertainment and merchandise. That's a different, totally different world.
yeah,
And I'm learning.
yeah, and kudos to you.
Thank you. But more importantly, it's like the more I learn this, the more I can give it to others, right? The more I can take my experience and share it to say that yes, to have an LLC, you have to make sure that you have $800 to pay every year if you don't make any money, right? Right? That having an LLC, a limited liability company, right, reduces your liability if something was to go wrong, where your business is treated as its own person, it's treated as its own entity, right? You are the owner, but if something was to happen, they can't directly attack you, they attack your business, right? So if they need to sue or there's some accident, it's your company that is held liable, not you,
Yeah.
right? Limits your liability. No, go ahead, June.
No, I don't ever want to cut you off because you always on game. You always spitting on, you know what I'm saying? I just, I'm just here, Jar Jar Beans. I'm just here for comment.
Not at all, June. Nowhere near on no Jar Jar level. Jar Jar was sitting there on some evil stuff, trying to manipulate the Republic into getting some dark side forces. People see that's the inside. If you look too deep, Jar Jar was on some like, you think I'm a fool, but really I'm gonna get y'all, all of y'all. You think I'm a fool? You treat me like this today, gosh, what's gonna happen tomorrow? We gonna get you, right? Darth Sidious in the house.
You go hard. Oh my gosh. Okay, so I just wanted to know real quick. Yeah, there's a lot of um funds. There's a lot of money going into marijuana, and it is and it is an expensive habit. Recently, I just want to point out that there are some states that are like decriminalizing, like not just marijuana, like New Jersey, like legalized, I believe, medical marijuana for those who are 21 and older. But states like Oregon, they're decriminalizing hard drugs like cocaine, methamphetamines, heroin. And in Oregon, I'm sorry, not Oregon, in Colorado, they legalized psilocybin therapy. Yeah. I'm sorry, my eyes are going crazy. Like, look,
Evangelism. Not mushrooms.
shrooms.
I mean, that's a beautiful thing because people, those that don't know, I'm barely knowledgeable, but I'll speak to what I do know, which is a little bit, right? There are therapeutic kind of I guess I would say therapeutic. I don't want to call it regimen, but there's a therapeutic practice that you can engage with using psychoactive drugs and dealing with certain traumas, PTSD, kind of dealing with certain forms of depression. There's research being done, and people are realizing that there's a lot of benefits to engaging with in a controlled manner, in a controlled space, right? That means that people who have expertise and who have education on how to use these things can monitor you and make sure that nothing happens to you that causes you more harm. Because the point of taking these psychoactive drugs is to reduce the harmful things that you're actually going through on a daily basis. So for Colorado to take that and say we're gonna move forward in this direction is a beautiful thing for people, right? Because at the end of the day, they're not like people be like, oh, they're gonna just let people just do whatever they want. No, it's not to say that. It's not to say we're letting people do whatever they want. What it is to say is, how can we see that there's harm being done and then say that you're wrong for being in harm, right? Like you're causing harm to yourself, right? The dosage is the poison. So now that you're taking poison, I'm gonna blame you and I'm gonna make you to be a bad person. I'm gonna make sure that you have a negative relationship with yourself because you decided you needed this for some reason, and instead of addressing the reason, we're just gonna say, nah, the reason don't matter. Which is like saying your life doesn't matter. Your action, that one action you committed to that is now causing you harm, I'm gonna say because of that, you're not a proactive member of society. You're not worth it to be a part of society. And I wanna make you now out to be a criminal, right? I want to criminalize you for your participation in this system, right? Even though I don't know how many cocaine plantations or right? How many cocaine plantations really are there, right? How many people are really out here like getting the ability or having the ability to get all these drugs that come from all these other countries into this country? And then
Crazy.
all of a sudden it's like, yeah, you the problem. You. But come on now. Like they're realizing, yeah, we got to reduce the harm. And by reducing the harm means we can't be persecuting people for trying to figure out how to heal themselves. Because as you see, Colorado's now realizing psychoactive drugs actually have a benefit based off of scientific research, right? That's what got us here, science, right? And now it's like, okay, what are we going to do? We got to sit up here and be like, let's make sure that we are able to give people a way to, in a therapeutic way, in a health less harmful harm reduction way, give them the ability to reduce their harm, right? And I think that that's kind of key right now is we're seeing a world that's trying so hard to reduce the harm around them. And that comes from voting, that comes from legislation, that comes from organizing, from knowing, getting involved. People stay with it. Don't
It
Yeah.
creativity and knowing that and it comes from wanting to seek justice for those around you and um yes, sorry, this it's just to let everybody know, my eyes have been watering this entire time and they've been driving me loca la cabeza. So, I mean, I just had to put that out there. So, sorry if I'm like rubbing my eyes and everything. Like, ugh.
Allergies.
I know. It's just,
Yeah.
I had some spicy food earlier and I think I touched my eye or something. So, like, I wash my hands though. I wash
That
my
don't mean nothing. That don't mean nothing. Like you can wash your hands and then it'd be like, what we do? We just poison ourselves. Dosage makes the poison, y'all. And hot sauce is like lightweight poison. Like I remember this a tangent of a tangent of a tangent of a tangent. This is Lyrical One's episode 23, I believe. If I'm wrong, we'll do the math later and we'll figure that out. But hot sauce. I remember this one fateful night. I went out with some coworkers. I went back to the house and we were inebriated. We were intoxicated. Do I participate in that? No, I try not to. But at this moment, I definitely was. And what had happened was we were like, oh, let's have some pizza. And it was like, oh, let's put some hot sauce on it. And they had a bottle with a skull on it. And they had another bottle that was from Thailand that had just had chili flakes and all kinds of other chili powders and stuff in it. And so they're like, let's take both of these and put it on this pizza. And we put on a pizza, and then our hands started getting on fire. Our mouths were getting on fire. Our esophagus was getting on fire. Our lips were on fire. And then the continuing next day, the other end of our cells was on fire. So the thing that I learned, right, we washed our hands, or so we thought, and when we were taking away the tears, our eyes were on fire, right? We just couldn't see anymore, right? So hot sauce is great. It tastes so delicious. I love hot sauce, right? Give me some fried food, that golden, crispy, unhealthy deliciousness. Now, remember, the practice is I don't eat it every day. And, when
sometimes food.
The sometimes food, part of the sometimes group. And sometimes you just put that hot sauce on it, right? But be careful, because you be thinking like, no, on fire. Okay. Oh wait, I gotta do it right. Fire. So the thing is, right, is just like, I feel you, girl. Like, hot sauce ain't nothing to play around with. You feel me? We gotta be careful out here. Practice is not. It's not practice makes perfect. It's that if you continue to practice, persistence practice is perfection.
Perfect.
I thought you was really having allergies out here, but that's just me. We in the humids up here in the Northern California right now, high humids. I ain't never seen these numbers in a hot minute. I mean, we are close to the ocean, don't get it wrong, but I'm like, we had 90% humidity. I'm like, what is this? Is this like Florida or something?
It was 90 degrees today in LA. I'm like, where's November?
Well, I mean, you are in Southern California, and as you know, 2020 said, it doesn't rain in Southern California. That's what they tell me, but I'm just saying, for me in Northern California, at least it's a little hazy, a little foggy. And I'm like, right now it's like sun shining, high humidity. Usually we get a little of that nice little breeze. Ain't getting none of that right now. Like,
dang, not even a bay breeze. Ooh, that's where they get you. It'll cut your throat.
I'm just saying, like people always be like, out of towners come into the city and they talk about, oh, it's so chilly out here, so windy, and it's like wind front one time, but it really hasn't happened since. Like, it hasn't really occurred, right? We could get into global warming, but I'm just gonna stick on the specifics of this is different. Like, this is different. Like, I wear a black shirt because that's the uniform when the mask is on. Like, that's what it is. That's just what it is. But
Hey.
I am burning up right now. Like, understand, like, this ain't cool. We out here burning.
For the art. Suffering for the art.
Oh yeah, suffering for the art, I guess, for the art. But no, it's just one of those things that yeah, right now the weather is a trip out here on the West Coast. Things, smoke still in the air, it's on and off. We ain't out the woods yet, and that's a pun intended by all the way. But it is a thing that, like, people be mindful, like, hopefully, as our representatives, I'm not gonna call them leadership, our representatives, those that are responsible to us, they are thoughtful of how to handle all of these incredibly crazy, horrific things, because it's we have so much advancement in society that, again, going back to kind of how the law of the land is, there's no advancement or evolution or like innovation in that, right? Like, we'll innovate a car to no end and use a car every day. We'll innovate how electricity and power is used through our house. But when it comes to the core fundamental practices of how we engage in our kind of civil discourse, nah, that's great. 200 years, like, oh, I mean, yeah, we wrote it when we had slaves, but we made slight modifications that really, at least for us who look like the people who wrote the documentation, it make us feel good about what we did, right?
We never have to think twice about it. Just leave it as it is.
Like Donald Trump has been the reflection of white people as a whole. That goes for all white people. Like, I want people to really understand that. Like, he is a part of y'all. And that's the reason why I see so many like anxious and so many torn white people, is because he let y'all know how guilty and complicit y'all all have been. That goes for every supervisor, for every coworker, for every person who has benefited from the European-centric model of like power dynamics, oppression, and like racism. All of you have benefited, and he is the like manifestation of your benefit. Like, he is like your beneficiary package that you get at work. That's Donald Trump. He's your beneficiary package. He is like Like, let's be clear, like he ain't the problem. Y'all are the problem, right? So hopefully our representatives who's supposed to be responsible to us can own that and make moves and decisions that are more thoughtful and responsible and respectful to us all. That's my hope.
My hope is well said. Thank you.
I mean, I'm just saying. For real, because it's crazy. Like,
No, I feel like a part of privilege is the ability to look away. And I feel like if every time someone looked away at an injustice or someone being treated poorly or knowing that you can intervene and you didn't, I feel like, some people put coins in a jar every time they say a swear word. You know what I'm saying? Some people put another bone to the skeleton that's already in their closet. Well, I just feel like everything that's been deposited has shown itself in Donald Trump because that's all he does is look away when there's a problem. Like, he may address, actually, what problem is yours? You know what I'm
he
saying? Like, because he's saying that, Black people have never had it better before I was in office. And so I'm like, you're just looking away from everything, which is the epitome of privilege to me, because you can get away with it. You can say, oh, it doesn't bother me. It doesn't have anything to do with me. Well, I feel as if one person suffers from an injustice, then none of us are free.
I mean, I will say what he's done, yeah, for real, fire. None of us are free. But it's one of those things where he I am thankful that he has shown me how much pain I've been in this whole time. How much pain I've been ignoring this whole time. How much I've been like uh trying to overcompensate for how much pain I've been in. Like, I will say I am thankful that he has revealed how horrible it really is to be a person like me in this world. No matter, like, I've been saying it, I'll say it again, but like I've been watching a lot, seeing a lot, and I learned that what I'm dealing with now is the same as it's been 70 years ago. There is no difference. The only difference is that now I can see it on my phone, right? The only difference is now I can learn from those who already have done a lot of work to do something new about it, right? Like, just to touch on world news as we get lost in the synapses of technology. This past weekend, right? 54 people were killed in Ethiopia by a rebel group in the Oromia region, right? The assailants targeted members of the Amhara ethnic group, right? Amhara. And Ethiopia's second largest, and the victims, the population of people was Ethiopia's second largest. And the victims were dragged from their homes and taken to a school where they were killed. Now, in the world we live in, where we live in the United States, the way you rationalize that is you say, well, it isn't as bad over here. When in reality, when you look at the protesters and you look at people trying to fight for change and you look at the people who are in prison, right? Because prison is just another form of enslavement. It's a way to get people just trapped in. You have to understand that what they're going through over there is the immediate version of the slow roast of what we're going through over here, right? And I say that because out there is wham bam, we're gonna do everything we can to take you out. Out here, it's we're going to manipulate and create a system and society where there's a threshold that we don't want you to make it past. Like, there's a certain capacity of limits that we don't want you to be able to get out of, right? And so, in Ethiopia, right, they look at it as like, you are a part of this group, so we want to get rid of you, right? Ethnic cleansing, right? You're the problem. That's no different than how, they treated Black people. That's no different than how they have manifested that rage using, the travesty and horrificness of 9/11 to take it out on people who are of a certain faith, right? Like, let's be clear, like, you could come from the Middle East, but be Muslim. It's a different story, right? It's a double whammy, right? It's who you are and what you believe in. And when you're looking at Ethiopia and what's going on over there, you're looking at Nigeria, what's going on over there, you're looking at all of these different places and these regions in the world. People always say, well, why does the US politics matter so much? when it comes to the rest of the world, because we got military bases all over the world. You could look, we everywhere, we all over the place. And we have influence in overthrowing governments. We are a part of overthrowing governments. We are part of assassinations. I mean, our president right now was a part of covering up one, right? Like our last president was a part of another one, right? Like there's nothing but we go after people and we do what we feel is necessary. And in like they say, the leader of the free world, but in a lot of ways, we are the leader of the world, right? The world stage, right? It lands on the United States, a fairly young country in the eyes of the world, in the history of the world, but in the scope of time and power and dynamics of economic value and merit, we hold the reins, right? Even if we're at a disadvantage, somehow we're still involved in the conversation enough to have influence. And it's a thing where in Ethiopia right now, 50 more people were killed, right? A rebel group, as many rebel groups do, right? We don't know how much of this rebel group was infiltrated by agents of the state, right? Was organized by agents of the state. To some degree, whether it's direct or indirect, there is always a tie to some form of government, some unifying body that gives the skills or the practice of how to execute these atrocities and these horrific situations that we see in the world. Like it's not lost on me that there's much to scrutinize, not for the sake of just complaining, but for the discovery of something new, right? I'm saying let's scrutinize it, not for the fact to like say, oh, this is what's wrong with it, but to find ways to make it right, right? I'm not saying to have complaints, I'm saying to have critiques. And in those critiques, we craft something that is better than what we have had, because it is obvious I am forever mindful that I could be raising my children in a world where the next tragedy will happen to them, where it's not happening in another country, it's happening in the backyard, right? It's immediate, it's swift, instead of long and just this drawn out process, because that's where it's at, right? We're seeing tragedy happen on our own land in the most drawn out of ways, right? You can see any number of a young black man being killed, or a young black woman being killed, or brown people being taken and torn apart in families and not being separated from their parents, children no longer knowing who the one that loves them most, where they are, right? Like imagine that your mama, your daddy, your granny, whoever was loving you, taking care of you, if you were fortunate, right? Because that, I don't want to just ignore those who didn't even have that, because there are people who never had that, who never had the ability to feel human touch as a child, right? You could have grown up in circumstances you were owed that. Someone brought you into this world, they owed you that, and you were never given it. So I can't sit and talk about the baby being taken away from their parent when in reality you were born into a society that didn't give much of a care to parents in general, right? It's not like we out here training people to be parents. We train you how to be a little worker, right? We put you in a school. We tell you we need you to deliver on these expectations and these objectives by the end of the week. And then every quarter, we need to see how much you've progressed and how much you've been able to produce. And now you go into the real world where a baby needs you, and they don't move off of that. They don't need that. They don't live off of that. You think the grades is what's gonna make a baby happy? The love is what's gonna make a baby happy, right? I just seen the other night this old YouTube video of twins that were premature, and they were worried about one of the twins about to die on the verge of death. And what ended up happening was the other twin just put its arm around the other twin. And all of a sudden, everything became regular, right? We lose sight of how human touch is a healing thing, right? And we now live in a society where human touch is, I'm going to grab you out of your home and I'm going to drag you to the school and I'm going to kill you, right? Or human touch is, I'm gonna see you, and instead of apprehending you, I'm just gonna shoot you. And the only time I'm gonna touch your body is to put you in a body bag, right? So
Or I'm going to put your children in cages and violate you and rob you of your reproductive organs.
yeah,
That's the human touch that we know of today, that some know of to be true for themselves.
yeah. I mean, think about it on every level. Like, think about, oh, because My association and limited understanding and knowledge and education in the world, human touch is I'm gonna throw gasoline on you, set you on fire, because you are now my fear projected of this virus, right? Not knowing where this virus actually come from, not knowing how deep and how dirty the hands of our own, government may be a part of the game, a part of the ploy, a part of this unfortunate situation. Like more and more you look, how unfortunate can it be? How unexpected, how random can it be?
When people are making money, so much money off of this thing.
Exactly. There's too many people who benefit from tragedy that at times of tragedy, you have to question why the tragedy occurs. It's not to take away and dismiss and minimize the value of people we've lost. It's not. But it is to say that we don't want it to happen again. And we have to scrutinize every layer of what's taking place to make sure it doesn't happen again. And I mean, I'm just saying, like, when we look at the world and what's going on, and we look at what's going on with our own, just within our own world, our own, the perception is reality, right? Perception is the reality. So you can tell yourself whatever you want and that'll be your reality, right? You could easily be like, all right, I'm done with this. I don't even want to listen to no more, right? If you're watching it, you see my facial expressions and you laugh. If you're listening to it, then you hear the echo and you might giggle. And you might just put this away and be like, all right, I'm gonna go online, I'm gonna go to H&M and I'm gonna get me some clothes, and I'm just gonna wait for the next Jordans to drop, and I'm gonna get me some shoes, and I'm gonna see what's on sale, and I'm gonna just live my life and do it. That's cool. Do that if that's what brings you joy. But for me, I realize if there's an inkling of like, this ain't it, this ain't even scratching the surface of what I'm really looking for, right? Because I'm gonna keep it real. When I was buying shoes, I was just trying to find ways to feel validated and feel like I belong to something, so someone could see me, right? To actually say they saw me, like, oh, look at them shoes. You see me. You see me. Now I know I live in a world where that value system is been skewed, right? It's not so much my community as much as it is consumerism, right? So I have to be very, very careful of how I'm participating in the world and what kind of place I'm in, right? Because I'm thinking, oh, well, yeah, I'm buying something to feel validated or to retail therapeutic means of like, let me get this out of the way, to get this, to buy this, to feel that sense of adrenaline, to say I did it. When in reality, all I'm doing is feeding the beast, right? I'm feeding the same beast that's gonna sit there and take advantage of someone else. I'm feeding the beast in a way that is not going to help feed my soul. That's not going to feed my heart, right? Everyone knows when they're satisfied when they get to be at home or when they get to spend time with those loved ones. And I'm just trying to show you the connection and the threads, how there's nothing that is limited by your perception, that you live in a world and you are connected to everything, and how you might think something minor may not be major. I mean, the butterfly flag, not the movie with Ashton Kutcher, but the idea and the concept that, the flap of butterfly wings could send vibrations through the air that can create a tidal wave of different types of momentum that could generate into maybe a hurricane or a tidal wave somewhere else in the world, right? It's that small ripple effect, that how that pushes momentum into creating this new thing that could be harmful or could be healing. But we have to be very careful of how we engage in the world around us, and we have to question it all. Why do you feel the way that you feel? Is it because you feel that way, or is it because there are certain factors in your life that want you to feel that way? You have to question it. Because for me, I'm questioning it every day. Yes, I wear a mask because I have to question, what is the value of my face in a world where there's so many different outlets and so many different platforms that feel like they have the ability to use it as they please or benefit from it, right? It's not about me. It's about who I am as a person. And if wearing a mask helps you see me, then I'm gonna wear a mask to help you see me, right? Because everybody gonna be like, "Yo, he just got teeth and he got a mask on. He a fool." Yes, by all means, I am a fool, and I am accepting that. I am learning. I am a fool every day, and I am learning. I'm not a fool to be disrespected. I'm not a fool to be devalued. I'm not a fool to be dismissed, but I am a fool nonetheless. Now, if you're a fool or if you're not a fool, maybe you know it all. And maybe you just got the handle on what world or what life is and this universe means. More power to you. But for those that don't, I'm just presenting an alternative. I'm just presenting something else. So, you know, I'm feeling like due to all of the unforeseen technological circumstances and to be responsible to everyone's time, because I know I could go on for another hour, I think I'm going to pause myself right here and say that, be good to yourself. Do your best to practice some level of empathy, of some level of understanding, love, and think about what it means to heal you. What is healing to you? If dosage makes the poison, then how much are you taking in? Because you have to be mindful of whether or not you're poisoning yourself. So, more importantly, in the mirror, say I love you to you. I'm not going to ask you if you love yourself. I'm just going to tell you to tell yourself you love yourself. Learn how to love yourself. But the practice, at least in the basis, is being comfortable with just looking at yourself and saying that you love yourself. So, if June can somehow, use her Tinkerbell powers with, oh, we back. We got June back. So, June, as I was getting ready to wrap up, you have any closing words for the local ones, listeners, the people of the future, those that will find this through history?
Stay true to yourself and be your fullest self. Yes, but don't be full of yourself. No, on a serious note, I just want to say that this is an incredible platform, and I never had a chance to share my gratitude and thankfulness to the Lyrical La Familia. But and in addition to our listeners, because they're part of the Lyrical La Familia too. So I just want to say, let's connect. Let's work together. Let's come together. That's what's on my heart. That's what I wanted to share. I do want to apologize for taking a couple of breaks to assist my eyes. Yeah, and my makeup's all the way rubbed off, so I mean it's okay. But man, I just want to say that this experience would not be anywhere close to as exhilarating as it is if it weren't for my co-host Sid. Goodness. And we shout out to Alfluent because we miss him too, okay? And while we're at it, let's shout out Lacey, you know what I'm saying? And we got to shout out Cross, you know what I'm saying? So it's been a good night. I mean, 23 is good. Hey, if there's a way that we can keep reaching for the stars with our podcast, with our delivery, I just want to know, are there any blind spots that we're missing? Because I just want to keep on growing full throttle. So even if members of our community have, you know, insight or divine input, not even divine, just input, I mean, on how we can grow together to better everyone, and let's do that. But Sin, what do you have to share? You're always sharing so much.
June, you hit it on the head. You got it all. You said it like definitely shout out to Cross for making this possible as always. Shout out to Lacey for bringing us together, for being our fearless leader. You are definitely the light and the guide for this podcast. You are directing us in the best way, and we appreciate all of your hard work and contributions and energy. And yeah, June said it. Be true to yourself. You know what I'm saying? Don't get full of yourself, but feel yourself, right? Like fill yourself up, not touch yourself. That's a totally different topic. But
that could be a form of self-love, self-care.
Yeah, but like it's a complicated process. I don't know how many people really listen to this and who's listening to it. And if you got babies, and maybe we should put disclaimers for all of our puns and unintended innuendos. But I'm trying my best to be provocative, but also responsible. It's a very complicated relationship. So, with that being said, this is episode 23 of the Lyrical Ones podcast. And with that,
we just want to thank everybody for all the listeners out there. Rock it out. Keep rocking with us.